Hello, my archfiends of chaos. This is your lord, King of the Night, Vince Valtami X Turk, and I'm here in a much calmer, much better mood than before. Well, not better mood, but more calm. So I gotta calmly explain a few things and address a few things of why something can't be. Now, when people complained about my Versus 13 video, like really heavily, I'm talking about super heavily, and they were. I'm sorry, my background's not there right now. I'm renovating. I have to get ready for family to be coming over, and also I'm gonna redecorate the background. So sorry if there's no background there. I apologize. But anyways, back to the video. The reason why I want to address that Final Fantasy 13 versus 13 couldn't be a thing is the reign of Final Fantasy 13 has been over for a while. It's been 2009, and anything that's old, it's not sellable or profitable as much as as it is. Final Fantasy 13 games are one of the best games ever, in my opinion, and changed the way we looked upon Final Fantasy games. In fact, it was, to me, the first modern games of the series that were really good, in my opinion. But my opinion outweighs the commercial world. The commercial world actually is a lot more intelligent than just my own biased opinions. But that's not the point here and there. It's like when people ask how come they didn't use Advent Children version of Cloud in the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, Advent Children came out in 2005. The movie came out in 2005. Well, this is in Japan. It wouldn't have been good for the current development because we live in 2017. And of course, they were starting to make the Final Fantasy VII Remake in 2015. Even probably started making it in 2014 and kept it as a hush-hush. But even then, it wouldn't have been sellable. It wouldn't have been sellable to put the Advent Children mod on there. In fact, the Unreal Engine was better at this because not only the Unreal Engine looks a lot better, but with newer technology and everything. And I have a friend who does animation. Like I said, he's in college for animation, so he knows this stuff. He has to relearn some of this stuff, even though he spent a lot of money learning some of the stuff he already knows. He has to spend a lot more extra money to learn even more, because anything with a computer, and I know this as a computer savvy guy, you have to constantly learn what's on the computer, and you have to constantly learn new stuff about the computer. There's always something new to learn, and with something new to learn, there's always something new to upgrade. Like Windows 98 could never tread any water with Windows 8. That's just facts. That's just hard facts. That's just it. The Final Fantasy VII Remake version of Cloud looks visually more appealing than Advent Children Cloud because, the time it was made. Now they can put even more stuff into the new Cloud that they couldn't do on the 2005 CGI model. Well, it's the same thing with Versus 13. Versus 13 could have been a game if they never waited a decade, but they waited a decade to make it. They waited until the reign of They waited until the reign of Final Fantasy 13 was over, which was after Lightning's return. Now, yes, they did make an HD version of Type 0, but it's an HD collection game. It's an HD version. It's not part of the reign. Back in the popularity of the Final Fantasy 13 series, back when Final Fantasy 13 was exceedingly popular, they could have got away with that shit. But now it's like they can't get away with that stuff. I mean, making another Final Fantasy 13 game. I mean, first of all. Second of all, Tetsuo and Normal, the guy you worship a lot. I mean, I'm talking about the ones who put the hate comments in my Versus 13 video of why it would play the same as the other Final Fantasy 13 games because of the stereotypes of Crystallia Novia. Now, that wouldn't work today because the reign of Final Fantasy 13 has been over. They waited decades for the Final Fantasy for anything Versus 13 related, such as Final Fantasy 15 to come out. Now, yes, it had some poor things at the chapter 13, even with the fix, but it still was a great game nonetheless. But even with it being a great game, they can't go back on it. And plus, a trilogy is never going to happen because the story's not there. It's like, how are you going to bring Noctis back to life? You got to think about that stuff. And not only that, it's got to, Tabata didn't want it because Tabata's about being more Western, and to be more Western would also cause you would to be way more Western would cause you to do things to make money. And Square Enix is a multi-billion-dollar game company. It's just like Microsoft. It's just like Sony. It's just like all those game companies. You know, it's like, I'm sorry if I was saying but calmly explaining like I'm doing right now. I'm just telling you it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work with the new stuff that we got out now. The stuff we got out now is the definitive stuff. It's the most definitive versions. Final Fantasy 15 is the most definitive version of Versus 13. Conceptually, I like Versus 13 better. Conceptually. But they waited too long. So without the reign of Final Fantasy 13, they couldn't make any games for Final Fantasy 13. They're moved on to, like it is, 15. They're still making DLC for 15 as we speak. They're still making more DLC out there as we speak. Okay, as we speak. And, like I said about the Final Fantasy 7 remake, they couldn't do the Adventure because the Adventure don't look as visually appealing as the ones now. Like, if you're trying to get new people into the series, you need new stuff, And Unreal Engine is what people are using. The Batman Arkham series, they use Unreal Engine. Assassin's Creed games, they use Unreal Engine. Everybody's using Red, and you know what? For gaming, in order to make gaming good, you have to follow the trend. If you're a game publisher. If you're a game publisher, and I'm not talking about following the trend like making a bunch of indie games and have PewDiePie react to it. I'm talking about, and actually to follow real game trends, you have to follow in the footsteps. That's why Final Fantasy 15 played similar to Arkham Knight and all Batman Arkham Saga games and Assassin's Creed games, because it made so much sense that way. I don't mean to complain a lot, but it's just the reason why I said that it would play the stereotype, because it would be a Final Fantasy 13 game if they kept Versus 13. Conceptually, Versus 13 was a better game conceptually, but they waited too long, so now it's Final Fantasy 15. They waited a decade to make this game, which it turned out really, really good, actually. I don't care what people say, it turned out really, really, really good. Versus 13 was kind of crappy, but that's a whole separate issue. Because what it is Tabata wanted to compile the whole entire trilogy into one game, and he did. He did exactly, because they turned into that. But I'm just saying that they're not going to use old concepts because it's not the style. Think about the Mega Man series. The problem with the Mega Man series is the fan base wanted a new 8-bit game. They wanted Mega Man, 7 or 8 to be 8-bit, and you know what they did? And guess what happened? Capcom has lost a lot of money doing that. So to do that would be more damaging than helping. You have to follow, and when you're a game publisher or if you're in animation, you have to do what's current. Everything's evolving. It's like comparing my Kia Monte 2006 that I have to a 2017 Kia Monte. A 2017 Kia Monte shits on my old 2006 Kia Monte. It just does. Because the manufacturer gets constantly better with everything they're making. So that's why I said, when I made that video saying that Versus 13 would follow the stereotypes of Final Fantasy 13, because it would. If you play Type 0, even the HD version of it, you fight the same enemies more than once, and it has mention of certain goddesses and gods that are from the Crystalium Novia series, which is Final Fantasy 13. Since, Tabata and even Tetsuo Normal before Tabata said, I want to make this a new game now. I want to, instead of scrap the idea of Versus 13, I want to make it out of a new game, and he did. And it sold well, it did well, because it did what it needed to do. Yes, Chapter 13 was a bad edge, but, we could, besides that, it sold very well. It sold, 1 billion copies around, because Square Enix knows how to stay in current, they know how to be current. And if you're in gaming, whether you're doing gaming journalism or you're a game publisher, you have to stay current with the new trends in gaming. That's why they're also including the VR system. Even though I don't really think Final Fantasy 15 needs a VR system personally, they're putting the VR system for a good reasons, to be quite honest. Because then if you got the good, if you because VR is what's selling now. That's how all gaming is. That's why they're also putting some games on the Nintendo Switch. Even though I don't think the Switch is going to do all that good, but we don't know. I'm still putting my ears out there. You got to keep up with what's going on in the trends, You got to keep your stuff trendy. Not only better CGI computer, 1080p, graphics with realistic sounds and realistic pictures, but you also got to keep up with what's going on in gaming that makes other games good. And the current games that are popular are usually the Batman Arkham series and Assassin's Creed games. If Final Fantasy games want to do really well, even if they got a bad story on it, they're gonna have to increase. They're gonna have to increase the frame rate of their games, and that's what they did with 15. And since, like I said, it's been a decade. So because it's been almost a decade for Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy Versus 13 to be produced as Final Fantasy 15. They couldn't go back to what they used to do. They couldn't go back to Versus 13 because the reign of Final Fantasy 13 is over because it's older games. Still good games to play, but it's older. The only reason why they were able to make an HD version of Type 0 is because HD collections were coming in style too. And, that did just as well. But it was still an HD collection. No developer's actually really going to produce something that's way back then. Because, if anything, look at Capcom when they made Mega Man 7 or 8. I can't even remember. They went back to the 8-bit and look how much they lost. Gaming is about making money. To make video games, you had to actually have that business mindset. I always taught people on my stream about the business mindset. You have to keep up with the current era. No matter what you do, you have to keep up with current events. You can't keep up with past events. So the Versus 13 would never be possible. And a sequel to Final Fantasy 15, we wish it would happen, but it's more likely not to. But that's me calmly explaining why I don't think this is a good idea. Now, that's just me calmly explaining you why I don't think it's a good idea. So, I just want to end this video right here. May the crystal be with you. I apologize for my rant videos. Again, I just got trolled left and right, and it's been affecting my personal life, and it's hard to deal with when it's affecting your personal life. So, may the crystal be with you. Have a good day.